Hello. We are live. Don't start talking. Every week. We cannot do this intro right. Every week. Either Lisa or Sonia can't figure out if she's live. We are live, people. Welcome. It is the Our Turf Football Podcast. I am Dana. Joining me is Lisa and Kate, and we are thrilled to be joining you this first week after the first preseason games. I mean, technically it was the second one because there was the Hall of Fame game. And Kate, awesome information on the Hall of Fame last week. Thank you so much for going and reporting on that. It was wonderful. But this was really the first week of everybody, right? Like it was the first week of everybody really, getting their team together, getting everyone rolling, seeing these quarterbacks. It was a fun week. It was a long damn day. I was on Twitter for 12 hours on Saturday. I was so tired of football at that point, but it was good. It was all good. So we are thrilled. So welcome to the Our Turf Football Podcast. Lisa, every year we have been lucky. This is the second year in a row. We have had the most fantastic sponsor in Donkey's Place.
Yes, we have been sponsored by Donkey's Cheesesteaks, and they're growing. They just opened up another one in Mount Olive, Camden, Medford. Best cheesesteaks. They got some great stuff going on this year, as do we. And Dana, I'm gonna throw that back over to you because I want you to show everybody what Our Turf is doing this year.
I'll show you.
Oh yeah,
I'll show you. I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay.
Okay, honest to God, I am not into fantasy football trophies because, we don't play for money. We just play for bragging rights and have a good time.
Right.
But look at this dang thing. It is the Donkey's Cup is what we've decided to call it. The Fantasy Football Champion. We decided this year to do – we've done fan leagues in the past. Some of them were pay to play. It was hard to manage a whole bunch of them without. We're going to do one. We're going to do one fan league, see if anyone's interested. Filled up instantly. I think we're going to have to do two next year because it filled up so quickly. And so those are for the lucky 12 people who managed to get into our fantasy league. Plus, we have a little prize pack coming for them, a kind of some fun things for them. So I'm really excited for fantasy football. And you fantasy football fans who are in that fan league, you get to play against Sonia and I. So expect the trash talk to come because Sonia's got it. She brings it. I am telling you every single time. So very excited for fantasy football. Very excited for all the things we have coming up this year. It's going to be great. Just kind of a little heads up. We have a couple of us are going to some away games. I'm going to go to the Germany game between the Seahawks and the Bucks. And so I think that we're going to be able to give you some great coverage throughout this year. So thanks for hanging out with us. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Kate, there were a lot of injuries in this first couple of seasons. The Browns got hammered, which I can't wait to hear about from you. But interestingly enough, there really seemed to be one injury that stuck out more than others.
And which one do you think that is?
Oh, I think it's Zach Wilson. But you might think differently with your Brown centers falling apart. But
so Zach Wilson, quarterback for the New York Jets, has a lot to prove this year. He's got, they're diagnosing it with a bone bruise and a torn meniscus, but they're only saying he's going to miss 2 to 4 weeks. So that's why, for me, that's not as big a deal as Mekhi Becton, their right tackle, has an avulsion fracture of the right knee, and he is on IR. He's done for the season. Nick Harris, center for the Cleveland Browns, a knee injury. They're not giving any details. We don't know if he's had surgery or not, but he has been placed on IR. Done for the season. Drake London, wide receiver, Atlanta Falcons, has a knee injury that happened in practice. Should be okay. May just be another week. They'll keep him out of practice. But it's knees. Yeah. The other one I was thinking about is Miles Sanders, running back for the Eagles, hurt his hamstring. They pulled him out of the preseason game for some soreness, and then they're keeping him out with a hamstring injury. I don't remember a season where we've had this many knee injuries just after the first week of preseason, and we've had at least 2 that have ended their season. They're done. So when we talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and where he could land, and I say things like, well, somebody's going to get hurt, people laugh, and I'm like,
no, it's true. It's totally true.
It's absolutely true.
And that's what I said. Someone said, I don't remember what other team it was, and they're like, "Oh, so and so." Let's just say the Panthers, but that wasn't it. But someone else they're going to call Jimmy G. Said they're going to have to fight the Jets for him. And honest to God, if I was thinking at the time that if Zach doesn't come back right away, they're going to call for Jimmy G. I mean, you've got two of his ex-coaches from the 49ers are on that team. They know him so well, backwards and forwards. But then Joe Flacco decided to show up and show out in preseason and in practice, and they're like, we're good. I was really surprised.
Well, he's a veteran quarterback. I mean, there's
fair,
no surprise.
but...
We know what he can do. I mean,
Yeah.
he's and like I said, as soon as they said that and I saw what Flacco was doing, I was the same thing. I was like, yeah. And then it's a meniscus. I mean, meniscuses are 2 weeks and people are back on their feet and stuff like that.
He had
So you
surgery
said
today,
more
I believe. Yeah.
the rehab. You know, the thing that like Kate was saying, it's knees. Some of them are non-contact. That's what's kind of scary. It's kind of, come on, guys. You know, you go back to what we did last year. We were talking about conditioning and keeping guys out and holding guys out. Do you want to do that? Do you not want to do that? Man, I'm so mixed on that because it's, the first game, it's, oh, they look rusty or they're not conditioned enough. There's a difference to me, guys, of being at practice. Especially, let's say a quarterback, you guys know I like quarterback, you got a red shirt on, you really don't get hit. But in a game, you're running, you're really getting hit. So are we, Josh Allen's a good example because of the Buffalo Bills. He's held out. I think last preseason he didn't play at all. So do we agree on holding star players out? I'm kind of mixed on it.
I think for some teams, you have to think about it. Dana, I tweeted you the other day when Harris went down and said it looks like, Ethan Posick is up next. And then I looked at the depth chart and I'm like, oh, we got Dawson Deaton. Dawson Deaton tore his ACL the next day in practice. I'm like, I didn't mean to jinx him, but I am now 2 centers down. I think for some teams, depending on the quality of talent on your roster, if you have 1 or 2 guys that are going to carry it, Christian McCaffrey should not see a snap in preseason.
Fair.
And maybe
neither
he
should
doesn't
Saquon
need to practice.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't even need to do anything but ride a bike on the side at training camp. And there are just certain teams where if they lose certain pieces, that's it for them. And the quarterback situation, I think, is going to get really interesting the next couple of weeks because there are still teams out there like the Giants who I think have a real shot at winning some games if Daniel Jones does something. And if he doesn't, they can bring Jimmy G in because they're not going to be in that bottom set of 5 or 6 teams looking for a quarterback in next year's draft. They're going to be those teams in the middle that need to do something this year to keep their fans happy. So there's a lot of opportunity. Like Lisa said, Joe Flacco's showing up and showing out and is going to could be starting week 1. So it's we've had a couple really bad ones, a couple of the niggling ones. It all feels like these little ticky-tack ones are absolutely about conditioning. So we'll see.
And
with
unfortunately,
only 3 real weeks, how many more people sit out the next 2?
And that's to Lisa's comment. It's like, you argue whether or not that, you should be playing these players, but they only have so much time now. These
we got to get to the 53
to get there, to see them play, to get there. So when you get to the superstars, you know what? They have to get back in condition too. Now, some of them do a great job. And I'm pretty sure the coaches can see that when they walk through the door day one, who has really worked hard and kept their condition. But there is different level. And, I was watching Hard Knocks this weekend. I watched the first episode of Hard Knocks. God, I love that coach. I just love him. It's just so good.
Dan, good old Dan.
If you guys can watch Hard Knocks, this one is with the Detroit Lions is good. But and he said to that group in the very first day, he goes, "This is the best you're going to feel until March. Just suck it up right now." And that's so true. And so they have to kind of get into that mode. I'll tell you, I find it interesting. I keep reading about how the Broncos, Russell Wilson is not playing in the preseason. Neither are most of their starters. They're barely doing contact drills during practice. And I'm like, okay, I think there's too much of a bubble that you can put on them. And then there's the appropriate amount of Russell Wilson's 33. I get it. He's getting older. Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to ever throw a ball. We have some of these players that don't need it. But at the same time, their asses in practice better be running because I think they have to get in that football condition. They have to be used to getting hit.
Well, and how do you evaluate those last 10, 20 players that are on the bubble to make your 53-man roster? You have to at least put them on the field with some talent.
Right.
You can't
to see
just
how they
have
stack up.
third string going against third string, because sometimes there are quite a few players I've seen that play better with the starters than they do with the second and third string. It raises the level of what they're able to do. And so is it fair to them if none of the stars are playing and they're not getting a real chance at, especially if you're like a receiver, a tight end, and it's not the regular quarterback throwing to you, it's somebody else, or quarterbacks have very different styles. Some of them throw those laser rocket balls that hit you, and some of them just throw a nice lob pass in. Who's throwing to you can make a difference on you making a roster or not.
Right. Absolutely. It's interesting. Yeah, I think that'll be the debate for a long time, especially with the extended season. Now, do we not work as hard at the beginning because we have to last longer to the end? I mean, there's that. But I will say this. I feel like every single year we say, oh my God, there's so many needs. Oh my gosh, there's so many career. But it does seem to go in bunches of what type of injuries, right? So I think that's interesting. Already had a couple concussion injuries out. That's very worrisome, especially for those players that have those great extra pads on the top. And people can say they look stupid, but I think they were brilliant. I love it. And the players said on Hard Knocks, they could tell a difference. And I think that's really important. So anyway, that's the mom side of me. All right, well, let's go ahead. And since we're going to be talking a lot about quarterbacks today, I realize that, there are lots of other players on the field, an entire defense, just saying. But we're going to talk about the quarterbacks today because I wanted to talk about this rookie quarterback class. Now, this class did not get any hype. Zero. This was a bad class. No one wanted these kids. They had Kenny Pickett went in the first round because he's from Pittsburgh. He went to Pitt. I mean, they had to have him for some reason. And then the next one was in the third round. I mean, they just didn't go. And yet on the field, they weren't terrible this weekend. I really expected them to look like backups or practice squad kids. And some of them looked pretty good. Yeah. Some did not. Some did not. Some did not.
Matt Carroll.
Yeah. But there were a couple that did look pretty good. And I want to start with Kenny Pickett. So Kenny Pickett, I got to watch him play a whole game. That was super fun.
Of course you did.
Seahawks. But so he was 13 for 15, 95 yards, no interceptions, a 132 rating, which, oh my gosh. He had 12 yards carrying, 2 touchdowns. So here's the interesting thing. Did you guys, I don't know if you guys heard it, if you saw video, that stadium went wild. He stepped out on the field and you would have thought Elvis had just walked onto the field. I mean, honest to God, they lost their minds, which cracked me up. It made me start laughing because I'm like, no pressure, kid. No pressure at all. You have this whole thing. Did you guys get a chance to watch any of that game? And how did you feel? Lisa, we'll start with you. How did you feel about his performance?
I felt bad for Mitch because my first instinct was this guy is going to have every single game mistake-free.
Yep. Because
like you said, you would have thought every starter was out there. You would have thought this was a game that mattered for the Steeler fans when Kenny Pickett took the field and the spread of Kenny. Because my first thought when I heard that was one of these games, Mitch might struggle a little bit. That whole stadium's going to be in a Kenny state of mind. And you got to understand, there were no starters out there. So he played with backups. It's a whole different ball game when you got a full-fledged of starters coming at you. So you better be careful with that. So, but I still think the fans, he's from Pittsburgh. It's an overreaction to me on the fans because it's like, look, understand, hometown kid, but wow. But it does. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Mitchell to perform, because that first game where you see him struggle, they're going to be hollering for Kenny Pickett. And the kid had a great game. Look, he was poised in the pocket. You look at that. You look at him, the way he handled some of the things. And we'll get into defenses and blitzes as we move down the line on quarterbacks, because I got one of the games that one of the coaches weren't too happy with on a defense. A lot of underneath stuff. They gave him easy stuff to do. And so I thought the kid held himself really good, and I think he's going to put a lot of pressure on Mitchell Trubisky.
But so there's a couple things as we're talking about all these guys. we're also not facing every member of a starting defense.
No.
And
Nope.
to
Fourth
the point
stringers.
Lisa just made, a lot of times the defenses come out and they're not game planning for the opponent. They're game planning for, we need to practice the deep routes, the middle
Right.
routes, this.
Mhm.
Let them have the short stuff. We're working on our coverages for these other things. It has nothing to do with what your opponent's doing. And so I hear Pittsburgh fans who, I'm from Cleveland. We know they drink. It's okay. I hear how excited they are about Kenny, and I'm like, I'm glad you're excited about him, but I'm not giving up on Mitch yet. And anyone who's
No.
smart knows
Right.
this isn't a reason to get rid of it. It's a reason maybe to make Mitchell feel a little competition. I think it's always
Definitely.
good to feel somebody breathing right down your neck. It brings out the best, especially in a quarterback. But that's what I like to point out to people is, they're not playing top tier stellar defensive talent
No.
that game plan to stop you. They're working on their own cut list and stuff.
The Seattle secondary that was out there were third, fourth stringers, and then half of them were undrafted free agents. I mean, they were just really, truly trying.
Yep.
And granted, a couple of them did really good. I could talk
Yep.
about Mr. Jones all day long. I don't know where the hell he came from, but he is like really good out of nowhere. But yeah, and I think that most NFL fans realize that. I just thought it was crazy how excited they were. But for what he put on the field, he looked pretty good. All right, let's talk about Let's talk about is it Ritter or Ryder? Desmond Ritter?
It's Ritter.
Ritter, that's
Ritter.
what I thought. Okay, Desmond Ritter for Atlanta, 10 out of 22. Not so good. 103 yards though. Had a nice couple long balls. 2 touchdowns, 89.8 rating. 59 yards running though. I thought that was rather interesting. I've heard some mixed thoughts on how he did, but this is not a quarterback competition. He is not going to take Marcus Mariota's job in any way, shape, or form.
No, and he's come Cincinnati Bearcats. Didn't see a lot of NFL style defenses, so there are a couple of them this week, and I'm sure we'll talk about Malik Willis here as well, who have to learn how to see the defense as fast as it is, and have to learn how to trust their linemen, their pocket. Their first instinct when they're feeling pressured and they're scared, even when there are people open, is to tuck and run. And that's what Ritter did a lot more. He did a lot more. Malik did more than he should have, but Ritter did a lot more than I think he will as he gets more snaps in the preseason. You're right. It's not a competition. He won't be playing week 1 unless there's an injury, but it makes sense for the coaches to get him in there, let him play some preseason, and let him learn exactly. He doesn't know what he doesn't know about NFL defenses, and he's going to learn that and the preseason's a safer place to do it. The risk is if you have a defender who's really trying to earn a spot, who maybe gets over aggressive and gets through a little early, or maybe causes a little more damage than you want. We've seen that kind of stuff happen in the past too. So I think long term he'll throw better and he'll balance that more. But yeah, I think he absolutely was running scared this week, and when he got nervous, he tucked and ran.
He did. Yeah, you could see it. Lisa, what did you think?
When I saw him, I liked his progression through the game. Like Kate said, the first, if you go to his first couple of series, you saw that tuck and run. And the kid's a great athlete, got great feet. I mean, 59 yards on the ground. The play that stood out for me as the game went on is the game winner, the 4th down play. When you see a quarterback come out, he had his second read was open, but he was flushed at that time, got a little happy, got out of the pocket, but he threw the ball to a one-on-one receiver. So his IQ just raised up right in front of your eyes, just watching the kid go through the progression. He knew where the ball had to go. It was a 4th down play, couldn't take a sack, can't throw the ball away. He went to the one-on-one guy and gave the guy a shot. I loved that. To me, that showed a lot of IQ for the kid as the game got going. So I think, like you said, they're in a great spot with him because he's not a rusher. You don't need him to be on the field game 1. So I liked what I saw from the kid as the game went on.
Love it. All right. This is the last one we'll probably do in depth. We'll talk about a couple of other short in littler bits, but Malik Willis out of Tennessee, obviously 6 of 11, 107 yards. Okay. An 88 rating, 1 touchdown, 38 yards carry. What I saw was a lot of the things that people talked about with Malik before the draft, I could see those things when he finally got onto the field. I could see it. Doesn't mean that he won't relearn or unlearn or learn new things, but I could get what they were talking about. Kate, did you watch any of that game?
I did. I thought Coach Mike Vrabel's decision to bench him in the third quarter because he wasn't throwing the ball when he had men open, that he was taking the option to run. I thought that was an interesting coaching strategy. I think a lot of coaches would have just left him in and let him work it out and figured out, like you said, like we saw with Ritter, as the game progressed, they talked to him on the sidelines. He started doing better and getting it more. And Vrabel has zero problem benching him in the third quarter and telling people exactly why he benched him in the third quarter. So I have to hope he's gotten to know him over the last couple months and figured out that was the coaching move that would maybe make an impression in him. You will listen to me or you will sit. And I can't wait to see what he does in his next week. We'll see if that works.
Crap. You guys, we're going to talk about quarterback competitions, but I just got a text. Drew Lock's got COVID. He's not playing Thursday. Damn it for Seattle. Okay, anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Damn it. Oh, that's
a setback for him.
Oh, for God, don't. Oh, okay. Anyway. All right. Lisa, did you like what you saw from him? Do you think that he is moldable?
Yeah, you saw flashes. I mean, you saw the arm strength, that 54 bombing. I mean, just effortlessly, you saw the athletic ability. It's hard for me with Vrabel benching him because to me, you have to play to a quarterback's strengths. To me, it's like, are you trying to take away the natural ability this kid has? I understand settling down. Look, stay in the pocket a little bit more. We always argue with Lamar. Everybody always thinks Lamar is a running quarterback, but Lamar passes more out of the pocket than anybody ever gives him credit for.
Right.
So I think he's a project for what Tennessee does, especially with Ryan Tannehill. You have time. So I think it's a little message to the kid that, look, you got to hit the book. We're going to have to go back football 101. Let's go through our progressions a little bit faster. Don't bail on the ball quickly. And I think that's exactly what we saw. Just a little bit of that happy feet. He knows he's got that God-given ability to get out of the pocket and make plays happen. Go ahead. And you're facing vanilla defenses, and then that's what, since we're going to stop on Malik, I wanted to go to Bailey Zappi of the Patriots, because when you brought up a great point with defenses, and I kind of agree with Bill Belichick on this one. The Giants blitz that kid every single down, which I think, I'm sorry, I think it's ridiculous.
They went all out.
They went all out. And I'm just like, I kind of agreed with Bill a little bit. I'm like, Bill, I can see your frustration. But at the same time, the kid handled it great. I hate to say it. Right. The kid did. He is such a Belichick quarterback. Kid's got the fastest release since I've seen Dan Marino. Jesus, that ball came out quick. Of course, it had to, because they blitzed. And then to me, it's like, wow, we just thought about that, because you're like, this is the quarterback. Is that the Giants' strategy all year? We're just going to blitz everybody.
They're going to get tired. They're going to get tired, and you're going to, if you do that against the wrong team at the wrong time, do that against Mahomes all day and watch him get one right past you, and there's nobody left to defend.
I found it kind of astonishing that I kind of agreed with Bill Belichick, to be honest with you, but I do. I think this is preseason game 1.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, and I look at it this way too. Maybe, like as we mentioned before, maybe that's what they decided to practice this game. They wanted to work on their blitz. They wanted to see what they had blitz-wise. Yeah, unfortunately, he was on the receiving end of that. I do want to talk
well,
about
Dana,
Skyler.
before you go, I'm checking my text too.
Yeah.
Seahawks running back Kenneth Walker III was pulled out of practice and is going to sit for a while. According to Pete Carroll, he's got a little hernia thing. What does that mean? Does Pete Carroll say things like that? What is a little hernia thing?
So here's okay, for all of you listening.
I'm sorry. I just figured you'd be able to translate that.
Who need to understand Pete Carroll speak. He lies like a rug when it comes to injuries. He does not tell you the truth. He will never tell you the truth. When he says, yeah, it's pretty significant. Oh, the kid's dead. Like he's in a coffin somewhere, if that's what Pete Carroll says. If he's got a little hernia thing, it's probably will need surgery. He's done, which breaks my heart. But
he'll be on.
But I wonder if they didn't know, like maybe if something popped during the game, because he looked so good in the Seahawks game. Okay, I could talk about the Seahawks game all day long.
Sorry.
I was so freaking excited about that offensive line. But anyway, so that's a whole different show. But yeah, so Pete Carroll just lies. Just know that. Okay, I want to go back to Graham's comment. Okay, so Graham says, I thought Skylar Thompson had a good game, hoping Miami signs him to the practice squad, as I don't see them taking 3 quarterbacks in the final 53.
Miami never takes 3 quarterbacks on the squad.
They don't.
That's
a lot of teams don't. Because why? You can throw one on your practice squad and pull them up if you need them, right?
He won't stay on the practice squad. He won't. The kid went 20 for 28, 218 yards, no interceptions, and 1 touchdown.
So you think he'll be your backup?
I don't think he'll be the backup, but I think that he's going to get picked up by another team.
On a waiver. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's good. I mean, the kid's got accuracy. He's a piece of promise. So if you're looking at somebody like Matt Carroll who struggled, yeah, you could easily think of a team.
Did not have a good game.
No, but to Graham's question, if he's got that much potential, would they pull a third one in and give up that 53rd spot?
It's Mike McDaniel.
So no one else no one else can take him.
Hipster homebrewer might just decide to stick him in his back pocket. Although I will tell you this, Lisa, damn it made me so mad. I was watching those press conferences and I'm like, that stupid hipster homebrewer is going to make me like him. And I don't like that. It is my job to dislike anyone out of San Francisco. It is my job in life. And he was funny. He's going to be a nice change for that Miami
it's
media,
so funny. When you're looking at his press conferences, when he's talking to him, and I'm going to use Graham, I'm going to use Skylar. He said Skylar, he got mad at himself because he kept thinking he wasn't a rookie quarterback, and he had to keep reminding because he was getting frustrated at some of the things he was doing. But he's like, he's so talented. I had to get that. So he said, so I took him on the sidelines. And I said, hey, dude. He called his quarterback dude.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because I can't get used to this.
Because that's what millennials do. Okay, so let's.
I was born in San Francisco, by the way, and you like me, Dana. So
Graham wants me to check my pulse. I know. Seriously, Graham. Seriously. All right, so there is one more quarterback, a rookie I wanted to talk about. It's Sam Howell out of Washington, 9 of 16, 145 yards, 86.7 rated, 2 touchdowns, 19 yards and carry. Carson Wentz didn't look bad. I'm not going to lie. He looked like a vet in a preseason game. And Sam did not stand out enough for me to make this a quarterback competition. They know they've got Carson. That's where they're at, and that's where it's going to be. But he didn't have a bad game. That wasn't so bad. So, all right. Well, let's move on. Let's go ahead and talk about a couple of these teams that have some quarterback competitions going. Kate, I want to start with you. Did you watch the Panthers game? And if you did, what did you think about what you saw out of Baker? Do you think he made a statement? Where are we at? Like, I don't know if they're just doing a good job of holding that stuff tight or what, but I can't get a feel of where their head is.
I watched the first quarter, and I thought Baker looked good, but it was clear to me that they were doing plays that he knew and that he was good at, and that fed into his sweet spot. And that was one of those things we didn't do here. We didn't do enough. We did not do enough offensive design and play calling to feed to his strengths. He may be shorter than I like my quarterbacks to be, but he is still very, very talented. And if you can give him time, and if he gets out of his own way, he can be very accurate. So I thought he looked good. But again, how good do you look in a preseason game against a defense? And, there was all that. I think it's stirring up the thought that he's competing with Sam Darnold. I haven't seen enough for me to think he's won the starting job for week 1, but I do legitimately believe that they're going to be sharing time, and there is going to be a decision made here very soon, and that job's up for grabs.
It's interesting. I look at the Panthers as the one true quarterback competition in the league this year. Yep. Like, this is really, they have these 2 guys, and they're just going to see who wants it more. And I that's the impression I get out of that, and I love it. I love that.
Yeah, I think there's a whole group of teams, and we could probably list them off, that by week 6 or 7, you may see the starting quarterback lose their job because if they don't get off to the start they want, they're going to just tank the rest of the season and go for a new quarterback in the draft. Right. And so they're going to have about 6-7 weeks to decide, you know what, let's just get this other guy let's get someone else in here and let's go and be done. So there may be some secret quarterback competition things going on, but as far as who the starter is going to be on opening day, I think there are maybe 3 teams that aren't 100% sure who that starter is, and Carolina's at the top of that list.
Yeah, Carolina's definitely. Lisa, when you look at some of these other ones, okay, I have a question for you, and you kind of brought it up before when we were talking about the Giants. Mm-hmm. Does Daniel Jones have his job week 1?
Oh my God, to me, no. I'm on the phone, Jimmy G, yesterday. Did you see some of those throws that kid made? Let me tell you something. Yeah, some are good, but you're a veteran. How many years has this kid been in the league to throw the crap that he was throwing? I mean, behind receivers. And I mean, the ball placement is, I would have been on the phone, Jimmy G, after that one throw that they kept showing on Twitter. I'd have had Jimmy G in camp the next day. How they're holding on to this kid, I don't know why, honestly. And I hate it. I don't want anybody to fail.
Taylor got a lot of reps in practice today.
Yes, he did, and that's why I brought it up, because they let him run for a while.
How are you bringing Jimmy G in though? Is there just you think there's something going on? I mean,
what I think it is, they're just waiting for San Francisco to cut him, because who wants to pay $24 million for Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, no one wants to pay $24 million for Jimmy Garoppolo. San Francisco's probably not having the conversation of we'll pay this much of their salary, because they know that they don't really have to. And we're going to talk about overreactions at the end of the show. San Francisco is the winner.
But of all the teams, he to me would be the one that wouldn't start on week 1.
I'm looking at the salary cap tracker that our friend hooked us up with. They've only got about $4.5 million in cap space. They would have the Giants would have to do some creative things if they were going to try to do some kind of. Even the Browns getting rid of Baker had to eat 2/3 of his salary. So 2/3 of 24 is 16. They'd be over the cap, so they'd have to do something. Yeah. And getting rid of a bunch of other quarterbacks isn't enough, because they have very low paid. You know, Jones is still on his rookie deal, and they got Tyrod and Davis Webbs for next to nothing. So they can't afford it. But I would not be surprised if the 49ers cut him, if they're the first ones calling his agent and trying to get him.
Mm-hmm. There will be a frenzy. There will be a frenzy once San Francisco knows they don't have to eat it. They can just keep him there through camp. If Trey Lance doesn't get injured in camp, then boof. Or they'll keep him all damn year and just let him sit on the bench. But I don't think he will tolerate that. And so it's like, I think that's just they're going to wait till the last preseason game. He'll be the cut, and he'll be picked up within a day.
There's only really 2 teams then that have a quarterback competition going on, which would be the Seattle Seahawks, because that was supposed to be Drew Lock, and Geno came on all of a sudden. So
we're flip those. So it was always Geno's job.
Was it? Okay. I thought they said that Drew was the lock. I thought they said
no. For what it is in Seattle. So the nice thing about Geno for Seattle is that he knows the system. He's been there forever. The coaches know him. They know what they got with him. He managed to win a game last year with absolutely no prep time when Russell Wilson got hurt for Seattle last year. And so I think they assumed that he would be the easiest one to plug and play, right? It's for a year. They know it's for a year, that everyone knows it's just for a year. Like I keep saying, 22 is all about 23 in Seattle. So I think that they knew that. What they were getting out of Drew Lock and what some of the fans want is just something different. And then this is the moment. Let me tell you, I'm watching this game. Geno Smith is out there. He's throwing. He has this beautiful pocket in front of him. Oh my God, Lisa, the O-line was so good. Oh my God, I love our rookies. So he had this beautiful pocket. The clock is just ticking. And what does he do? A stupid Russell Wilson spin and takes off running out of the back of a perfect pocket. Twitter lost their mind. I lost my mind. And it was like almost at that point, I'm like, oh God, did he just completely screw himself? Because that is the opposite of what they want out of their quarterback this year. And so I think then they assumed Drew Lock. And Drew Lock looked like Drew Lock. I mean, he looked pretty good again. First, second half of the game, not the starters, all that good stuff. Right. He did fine. He had some good decision making. He stayed in the pocket.
He's a smart guy. His IQ is good. Smart guy.
But the interesting thing about it is now that he has COVID, he's going to miss a week. And this was his chance to start. And that's really, really tough. So I don't know. We'll see. I will tell you that if they let Geno start and he has 2 bad games in a row, they will be screaming for Drew Lock.
Yeah. Well, you have that option, like you said. There's no, you're going, if you're looking at.
You're not looking to make anybody happy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would, so at that point, you're not kind of upsetting your fan base because it's like, look, we're just trying to win a game here and there. This isn't our future.
This
Either
is
one
not
of these
it.
guys.
Yeah, I think there are 4 teams right now where we don't know today who the starting quarterback's going to be week 1, right? We just talked about Carolina and Seattle. I think we can throw Pittsburgh in that mix. I don't think they've decided yet if it's Mitch or Mason Ruff or Kenny Pickett. I think they're still using the preseason to make that decision. And then for me, the last team is the Browns, but that's not a quarterback competition. That's because I don't know if Deshaun Watson's going to be suspended week 1 or not.
Right.
So it's either Deshaun or Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby's going to get I'm hearing all the snaps in this week's preseason game because they need to get him ready because it's so up in the air.
Yeah.
Okay.
The interesting thing for that, though, I did hear the conversation of will the Browns bring in Jimmy Garoppolo if that happens? And I immediately replied, absolutely not, because Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to agree to come in for 1 year. That's not going to happen.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. And
if you're Deshaun, let's just hit that for a section because they brought out some great points. We already know. We've looked at this contract, right, Kate? We know that the Browns have pretty much had this contract. Like, if you miss a year, you're okay. Your money's on your back of your second year. If you're Deshaun and they go for the year, you'd be almost stupid to appeal that, wouldn't you? Because you don't want to extend this.
Yeah, you want whatever your punishment is to be in year 1 when you're making $690,000 for the year because the game checks you're going to lose are a lot less than the 4.6 or 8 million you get next year.
Right?
He don't want to lose 2023 checks. He wants to lose 20. If he's going to lose checks, which is why he's apologizing and saying, I'll take the suspension and keeping his head down because it's going to cost him 5 times as much for the same number of games next year as it is this year.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
They did the contract that way.
It'll be this year. It will be. And I think from what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, it will be the full year. And that's what he's going to take.
They kind of had planned for that. That's kind of thought.
It's what it sounds like.
You got Jacoby Brissett and you signed Josh Rosen, and they think between the two of them, they can limp through the season. They can limp through the season and bank on next year.
Right. I have to say this, and people don't want to hear this, and I'm sorry about that. I'm going to take 2 seconds, though. I don't know which one of your players it was, but they asked him about the Jacksonville fans booing Deshaun Watson, and he said,
"They did more than boo, Kate. They did more than boo. There was some explicits being said around that stadium."
I wasn't angry about it, but the player said it's the Browns against the world, and that killed me, Lisa. That killed me, Kate. Because it's not the Browns against the world. No one has a problem with the players on the field other than one. And I hope to God that is being told to them somehow. Because this is
it was
not
Joel
about
Bitonio,
okay.
which is what's so upsetting because he is one of the leaders on this team. He is one of the players that everybody knows.
Look at this. Josh Rosen has more comebacks. You're right, Greg. You're right, sir. You're not right.
Now, the Browns would be somebody that Graham talking about Skylar Thompson. The Browns would be somebody to look for to pick up that kid if he went on the practice squad because he's 3 times better than Rosen right now, and he's a rookie.
All right, Kate, go ahead. Sorry.
Joel Bitonio is the one who made the comment, and I understand what he's thinking in his head. What he doesn't realize is Deshaun would have gotten that reaction no matter where he was. It wasn't a Cleveland Browns, and it wasn't about Baker Mayfield. It wasn't about any of that. It was fans, and I'm happy to say it was as many male fans as it was female fans who are unhappy with his behavior, who find it unacceptable, and who are not happy with the response so far as a penalty goes from the NFL. So I think I understand we have this whole mentality of, we get no respect, Rodney Dangerfield, the Browns against the world. This was not that. And a number of people have let their displeasure be known with his comments, both inside and outside the organization. And hey, this is really something you don't want to talk about. When people ask you about Deshaun, no comment, walk away.
Yeah, no comment.
Yep.
Don't talk about someone else's contract. Just don't even, because it doesn't matter what side of him you see in the locker room. It doesn't matter how well you know him. This is not an argument you are going to win with anyone. Right. Stay out of that.
Absolutely. Right. All right. So let's move on. I want to talk about overreactions. And let me tell you, there were a lot of them.
Everybody's going to the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Everybody.
my God. And
Well, we
Trey
have
Lance is that
16 teams on their way to a perfect season, right?
and everyone else is going 0-32. I am telling you, I love football fans for this exact reason. They make me so happy. I saw everything from, like I said, Trey Lance was going to be the MVP. Okay.
Yep.
To oh my God, all the stuff that came out about Aaron Rodgers and his hallucinogenic or whatever that he did, or whatever the hell that was hilarious. And that then the overreaction was the Packers are not going to win a single game. I'm like, do you know who your quarterback is? They're going to win a game. You might not have anyone else on the team, but Aaron Rodgers is there.
You might not be able to stop anybody, but Aaron Rodgers is going to make up for that.
You're right, for sure. I saw a couple about Miami, and that.
They're handing Mike McDaniel the Super Bowl.
Oh my God, that's right. He is the new Sean McVay.
But don't we do this every year with a new coach? Flores was the same way. This is my coach. This is my kind of coach. Yeah, I'm going every year. Every year, it's lollipops, rainbows, and unicorns, baby.
I know, and I love it. Or the exact opposite of, oh my God, we don't have a team. They look
That's
terrible.
The Giants fans.
Doom and gloom. Eeyore.
Do you know not a starter was there? Not one. Not a single starter. Calm down. I love preseason overreactions. They were super fun. So I want to tell our listeners out there, if you see a really good preseason tweet or Facebook post or anything, please send it to us. Please send it to us. I love them. I want to make like a Hall of Fame at the end of the season.
Sonia and I have a lot of fun with those because we are both fans of teams who went 4-0 in the preseason and then 0-17 for the regular season. We will tell you how much preseason means nothing as a prediction of what your regular season is going to look like.
I think the Cowboys went winless in their Super Bowl year in preseason.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. So please, I'm asking anyone out there, send them to us.
Tag our turf in those. We will
it makes me
retweet them and we'll talk about them on the podcast.
I love it so much.
Don't engage with these people. Don't engage.
Oh, some of them are fun though. There are some trolls that are fun to play with.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. So I love it when people don't read my bio and they don't realize that I cover the NFC and the AFC West. I cover both of them. And so I have to, Seahawks fan, I have to retweet the Broncos things. Okay. And this guy, all I did was retweet. It was just something about Russell. It was completely innocuous. Like it had nothing to do with anything. And it was just a retweet. And this guy lost his mind that I was, I needed to let it go. And he wasn't a Seahawk anymore, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you need to read my bio. I need to do this. So before you come for our heads, remember that we cover more. Please do that. We cover whole divisions, 2 of them, as a matter of fact. So, all right.
I got the Titans with Ryan Tannehill, and it's like, you can't let Ryan Tannehill go. I'm like, dude,
let him go. I can't. I have to tell you what he's doing.
I have my division, then I have the AFC South, so I still have to say nice things about Tom Brady.
Oh, you poor thing.
Well, objective things anyway.
Oh, we could do a whole show on what's going on with him. Oh my gosh.
Know, right? And that brings us back to, remember when we were talking about the sports paparazzi media, watching planes flying? They were trying to figure out where Tom was going because they wanted to know why he wasn't going to be in training camp. And when you look at his family and his mom's got cancer, I mean, something could be going on with her. Leave the guy alone. Jesus Christ. Let him
have a minute. He doesn't need to practice, people. He's good.
He doesn't. Leave him alone. If something's going on, jeez.
All right, everyone. That is our show for this week. We will be back next Tuesday, as we are here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be here on YouTube. Please come join us on YouTube. We have such a good time on YouTube. As you can see, we chatted with Graham. We have a couple people, if you're watching us on YouTube, I can see your number there. Chat with us in the chat. We love it. It's just so much more fun that way. And we're happy to chat with you. But you can also watch us live on Twitter. And then we are also on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're on all of them.
So big time.
Come find us. Listen to us in your car. You can watch us on your computer. All right, you guys, we will see you next week. I hope everyone has a great one. Good night.